In any video game pitting one player against another using characters and a space in which to do battle, rules are put in place to ensure a level playing field between combatants. Even if what they both carry in their repertoires are not uniform, the intent is to ensure neither side carries a gratuitously higher advantage over the other so as not to take away from skill expression. Including and especially within fighting games, members of the cast have to skirt an extremely fine line between having just enough of an advantage over their opponent while simultaneously allowing them ways to overpower you through their own advantages. This tenuous balancing dynamic is close to impossible to consistently achieve, and no one underscores this more than touch of death characters like Luigi, Ice Climbers, and our subject for today, Kazuya. Kazuya is a member of the controversial Fighters Pass 2, and much like the majority of them, he carries a negative reputation in the community for being so overtuned that, while not to the same extent as Steve, the player base has tried entertaining the notion to ban him from tournament play, especially given the rapid surge of Kazuya main or co-mains pulling off unusually high results. In today's episode of Why Everyone Hates, we're going to be analyzing Kazuya to find every possible reason contributing to the very title of the video. In my previous episode on Steve, I talked about how being a strong character in a vacuum alone is not the single determining factor behind them being unenjoyable to play against. By extension, seldom if ever is a single mechanic or gameplay element a bad thing. What deems it toxic or not comes down to what responses are implemented correspondingly to allow players a form of address against it. For example, attacks that are normally unpunishable on shield can be made feasibly more so if you can parry them, adding 3 more frames of actionable time alongside bypassing the end lag from dropping a shield. I understand even with the inclusion of parrying, some attacks can be very hard to punish, but in general, it's because parrying exists that several attacks in this game can be as safe on shield as they are, without people making too big a fuss about it. But when a character possesses a gameplay element or set of moves that functionally override the opponent's ability to contest it, it leads to a decrease in agency for said opponent. Loss of agency is the single most destructive aspect to a player's gameplay experience. Touch of death characters by their very nature can be overwhelmingly polarizing, resulting in drastic fluctuations of agency between players when ideally there should be a steady ebb and flow between both sides as they oscillate between neutral, advantage, and disadvantage. Kazuya Mishima notably pushes the envelope on what should be accessible to a character like him. While I'm positive the majority of the tournament community would rather fight a Kazuya than a Steve or a Minmin, the root problem with each of them plays into their ability to deny agency from their opponents, especially in a way that requires next to no exposure for them. One might even argue that Kazuya could be the worst defender of them when it comes to actual head-on confrontation. Kazuya's notoriety can be connected to 3 primary factors. First, the challenge of accessing his pressure, or more specifically lack thereof. All characters have combos and confirms that are for the most part impossible for the opponent to escape once caught by the initiating move. If you get hit by Roy Jab at 90%, a rising back air is almost certain to follow in most circumstances. And while I'm sure many people find a grounded kill confirm setup as easy as Roy's jab to activate as kind of unfair, there's a degree of counterplay present in that Roy has to be very close to his opponent, exposing himself in equal measure in the process. Alternatively, you could stop him from getting within range of you to achieve such a kill confirm. Notably, if you have, say, projectiles, disjoints, or perhaps something fast enough to shake him off you, such as an added shield option. Kazuya's primary touch of death combo consists of a series of electric wind caught fists into neutral air to pop you up and knock you back down, before eventually leading into one of his many ways to finish your stock off upon getting you to an appropriate percent. We'll start with the source. Electric, as I'll be abbreviating it from now on, is widely considered one of the best single moves in the entire game. On a frame 8 startup, it deals an incredible 14.5% base damage or roughly 18% with the 1v1 multiplier. It also has next to no knockback scaling, meaning you can combo into it at virtually any percent. Further, being an electric attack, it has increased hit stun, which when factoring in tandem with the non-existent knockback, once again makes comboing off of it very easy, even with Kazuya's 7-frame jump squat. Landing the attack essentially guarantees any of his aerials or upward-facing attacks like up smash or up B. What makes electric in particular so oppressive compared to any other combo starter, however, isn't that it guarantees a follow-up. Like I said, if Roy connects a jab on you, he can follow up into basically anything at any percent. The real problem with electric is how it presents next to no opportunity for the enemy player to mount a response against it. The 2 ways to stop a character from getting an attack off on you is to either A, strike them first with the move either faster or longer in range to knock them out of it, or B, block their attack and then counter with an attack of your own while they're in end lag. Neither method of recourse is available in response to electric. Kazuya moves a fair distance forward before using the attack as it's buffered out of a crouch dash. Furthermore, it has decently tall reaching hitboxes, ruling out the possibility of using aerials to snuff it out. Secondly, Kazuya gains full body intangibility during the startup of the attack and then intangibility on his arm afterward. Challenging him with a faster move or even a disjoint 1 is straight up unviable. He can literally ignore your attack while striking with his own. Relying on plan B shielding the attack is also out of the question. Electric forcibly pushes opponents out of shield, eliminating the option to respond with an out of shield. The single way to deal with electric is by whiff punishing it, either by spot dodging or staying just out of range of the attack and then going back in. But with only a mere 24 frames of end lag on the attack, the average human reaction time is unable to notice an electric fist and then press a fast enough button in response to it. You essentially have to predict that he'll use electric and then hopefully be at the right place at the right time. Adding everything I just talked about, the safest option for the vast majority of the roster is to simply not be anywhere near Kazuya when he's doing this. At the same time, however, that means the opponent's not getting anything out of it either, leading to a degenerate game state where you don't want to interact with them out of fear that you'll almost certainly lose, yet you have to because how else are you going to mount a percent and then a stock lead? Electric is so fast and safe that Kazuya can carelessly spam it in neutral with no regard for his own safety because the risk-reward ratio is so overwhelmingly stacked in favor of him that the most pragmatic option is to not engage. At the very least, for Luigi, the noticeably smaller hitbox and that it can be challenged with aerials or attacks gives the opposing player agency in responding against him, even with the extreme risk of dying or taking ludicrous amounts of percent being just as present within him as it is on Kazuya. Which brings us to problem number 2, the fact that Kazuya has more than one way to explode you. Another balancing factor behind combo starters is the challenge of being in a position to achieve said combo starter. Once again, bringing up Roy's overpowered jab, the move itself is virtually identical to electric in how often you can spam it, how fast the move is, and the sheer range of combo potential it bears, all the way from 0 to kill percent. However, to reiterate, Roy has to be right next to you in order to land this attack, meaning instead of challenging jab directly, you can challenge Roy's attempts to get him close to you instead, attacking him with a disjointer projectile or whiff punishing him if he tries to approach you in the air. For all his speed and momentum, Roy can only run towards you in so many ways, making him somewhat predictable. Kazuya has comparatively more creative latitude in how he wants to approach, namely that he can combo starter into his combo starter. For one, down throw at early percent leads to a guaranteed electric, which means shielding in neutral is not an option, so you can't shield against Kazuya, and because of electric's inherent properties, you can't attack him either. Kazuya can also lead into electric or a grab to which he can down throw into electric at low percents by way of a forward or neutral air, much like how other characters can do the same. So he doesn't have to approach from the ground, he can also command you from the air. For that matter, I just want to go on a small tangent. Kazuya's forward and neutral airs are stupid. The hitboxes on these attacks are among the most deceptive in the game in terms of disjoint size. Look at forward air, that shit's a sword. But back to the point, challenging him on the ground is suicide, shielding is also suicide, and challenging him in the air can also potentially be suicide. Adding more insult to injury is how even if you can play around electric, Kazuya has tools to bypass all other means of defense. While you no longer have to worry about getting down thrown to electric at mid% or higher, shielding is still heavily discouraged against him. Kazuya has 3 ridiculously strong command grabs at his disposal: Heaven's Door, Gates of Hell, and Rage Drive. Heaven's Door is a relatively slow but powerful grab that behaves identically to Bowser's side B, a lift up followed by a drop down that deals incredibly high damage and can begin to pose a threat to your stock around 120% earlier if on a platform. Gates of Hell has the absolute best horizontal knockback angle in the game, along with immense damage and launch power to boot. If he grabs you near the ledge, most characters with a bad recovery are practically dead, and at around 130% it's a guaranteed kill depending on your position on stage. When Rage is active, Kazuya gains access to Rage Drive, a super armored, longer reaching, and considerably faster version of Heaven's Door that deals a staggering 40% damage and murders you at 80% or higher even with optimal DI. Naturally, the higher up in percent you go, the more you'll be inclined to shield so as to avoid taking fatal damage. But in addition to powerful attacks, Kazuya has powerful grappling options that not only discourage but outright punish you for shielding. What about grabs? Can you grab him? Negative. Being a ground-based attacker, grabbing is already incredibly risky since he carries a ton of powerful grounded attacks that are decently fast and safe on shield. But what makes it really hard to grab him is that next to all of his moves carry some semblance of intangibility, causing it to potentially whiff a grab that looks like it should have tagged him. Said intangibility further lends credence to how difficult it is to fight fire with fire. Electric is far from the only move in his kit that can straight up ignore your attacks while hitting you in return. So despite his frame data being relatively poor for a brawler, he makes up for it by being invulnerable during startup, preventing you from attacking or grabbing him during that time. So it appears you have to basically rule out close quarters or even mid-distance combat. What about long-range combat like projectiles? Even that doesn't work. If you were harboring any ideas of blasting him to Kingdom Come with projectiles, think again. First, Kazuya's neutral B is a transcendent laser that deals very high damage, essentially being a raw laser that doesn't have to be charged. While it's not the fastest projectile in the game, the point is he has a projectile he can make you approach. Second, Kazuya has the single best reflector in the game in terms of how punishing it is. Left splits kick not only is an attack of its own, but it's the strongest reflector in the game. I believe it's a 2.6 times multiplier. It's so strong you basically explode if you reflects a decently strong projectile. Like I'm pretty sure a max charge shot reflected back at Samus is an insta-kill at like 20%. It doesn't have the same speed and utility as say a Falco reflector, but trust me when I say you cannot projectile camp this man. Or rather, you can, but you just have to be really careful about it. You can't recklessly spam like you would against anyone else. Literally nothing works against him except camping. Attacking him head-on doesn't work, trying to whip punish him doesn't work, trying to add a shield him doesn't work, trying to projectile spam him doesn't work. Your only option is to just run away from him and bait him into doing something really super laggy before attacking him. Doing literally anything else will come with a negative EV being expected value. Sure, maybe once or twice you can punish a Kazuya in close quarters, but the other 8 or 9 out of 10 times he's blowing you up, which brings me to problem number 3. Kazuya just shits out damage. He's a heavyweight, so naturally he pumps out good damage, but what really makes him so annoying to fight is that he can straight up take you from 0 to kill percent in the blink of an eye. All of his attacks do double-digit damage, with many doing 20% or higher. Neutral air does 14, forward air does like 17, back air does 20, up air does 16, electric does like 18. Even Jab Flash Punch does like 19. A single down throw electric nair, demon god fist into down back tilt, down forward tilt takes you from 0 to like 95%, at which point another electric will lead into either up smash or up beat depending on where you're at. Speaking of which, he has so many ways to f you up at any spot on stage. If you're a center, he can up smash to kill you at 90 or up B to kill you at 120 or higher. If you're close to the corner, he can back air you instead since most people will try to DI out to avoid up smash or up B. You can also just do electric into the grab version of Rage Drive to kill you there. And even if you can make your way around electric, Kazuya just has so many different attacks that can kill you. Back tilt or forward tilt both kill you at like 120 at the ledge. Dragon Uppercut is the mother of all Hail Marys, one-shotting you at 90% if you get hit by the strong part. Even a random dash attack can kill you at 130. You have to worry about so many things killing you beyond just electric that it further confirms the notion of camping being your first and primary recourse. For other characters like Steve, Min, Luigi, and what have you, they break the rules of the game by circumventing the how. Steve breaks the rules of the game by cutting off entry points to him, forcing you to attack him in a certain way, from a certain direction, and at a certain time, thus making it very easy for him to respond against you. However, there still is a way for players to attack him. Luigi breaks the rules of the game by invalidating the natural sequence of neutral to advantage or neutral to disadvantage by outright killing you through a sequence of attacks that give the player very little agency over escaping out of. However, you can still punish him by playing around his grab, the thing that starts it all. Min breaks the rules of the game by being able to pressure you from such a far distance that she basically never has to expose herself in the process. However, once you get within range of her, she can crumble to pieces. Unlike Min, Kazuya does have to expose himself somewhat to attack you, being primarily close quarters. He doesn't restrict avenues of entry to attack him the same way Steve does, and compared to Luigi, his combos are not quite as one-dimensional. That being said, because the game is player versus player, not player versus objective, he breaks the rules of the game by being unbreakable. Every character needs to be confronted to win the game. Kazuya breaks that rule by being unconfrontable, thereby preventing players from winning the game. If instead of Smash Ultimate this was say Yu-Gi-Oh, then you could devise a strategy around attacking the player directly or doing burn damage or something instead of taking the invincible boss monster head on. But in Smash, Kazuya is both the boss monster on the field and the player. You have to fight him if you want to win, but all the tactics, knowledge, and strategy in the world don't matter in the face of sheer numbers and brute force. It's like Smash 4 Cloud basically, overtuned to hell. Feels like every fighter's past 2 character cheats in some way, but that's DLC for you. Anyways, let me know in the comments down below what your thoughts are on Kazuya, whether you agree or disagree with my points, but that'll be it for the time being, so if you enjoyed the video, a like and subscribe would be much appreciated. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Vars, where I'm joined my Discord server, and check out my other Why Everyone Hates episodes if you haven't yet. But till next time, thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.
T-shield was sparse a second ago, but now it's back to full.
Very nervous play here from T.
Pivot boost, that tilt. Oh
Air
my
dodge
god.
jump.
Yeah, because he used the side B. He couldn't up B after that. I didn't know that. Well, now you do.
Oh, no!
No! Oh my
He
god.
went for it all.